Over the last few decades in particular, business has come to realize that its success in the future also depends on maintaining a healthy environment.
We take the view that we speak out on issues which our customers and our employees and our other stakeholders would expect us to speak out on.
Why have companies started to pay more and more attention to their environmental responsibilities? The last 30 years have seen many highly publicised environmental disasters of worldwide concern. Governments have introduced increasingly tough regulations. Customers too expect companies to operate in a responsible manner. Companies still need to take full account of their shareholders' interests, but they must also respect the wider interests of their stakeholders, that is, their customers, their employees, and the community. We hear from Prince Sadruddin Aga Khan, founder of Alp Action, the organisation which promotes the protection of nature and culture in the Alps, about the place of the environment in business thinking. David Wheeler, the former head of stakeholder development at The Body Shop, describes how that company regards its corporate responsibilities. But first, Vernon Jennings, previously a director of sustainability and environmental consulting group. He examines why business is rethinking its relationship with the environment. Business uses natural capital, timber, plants, minerals, for example, and man-made capital in the form of stocks, shares and cash.
Over the last few decades in particular, business has come to realize that its success in the future also depends on maintaining a healthy environment. It's using natural capital as well as man-made capital, if you like, finances, natural capital, raw materials, plants and animals. So business is increasingly seeing that it has to look after that side of things as well. One of the problems, of course, is the short-term nature of business. And when we're talking about environment, we're talking of something that's very long-term.
Business and industry must obviously take their responsibilities towards the environment seriously. Can business and the environment work together? Perhaps concern for the environment can even bring benefits to business. Prince Sadruddin Aga Khan certainly thinks so. Environmental activities such as waste management and recycling create jobs. They are job generating. He argues that companies cannot afford to use up the Earth's resources that can't be replaced. They can't squander the environment's non-renewable resources. If companies do, they will become extinct, like dinosaurs.
The environmental field produces enormous opportunities for growth, whether it's for recycling, cleaner engines, saving energy, fuel efficiency, etc., etc. And therefore, it's a job-generating sector. There's an enormous amount of money that's being made now out of recycling, waste and whatnot. So basically, I don't think that the two are contradictory. In fact, they work together. Ecology and economy have the same root. And I think this is something which today's economists are very much aware of. You cannot continue to basically squander the environment, non-renewable sources, and hope that you're going to achieve growth. What will happen to the firms that do this is that they will very quickly become dinosaurs. And this is why in many industrial sectors, including the automobile industry, the environment is taking on an extremely important dimension.
Caring for the environment costs money. Who pays these costs? Vernon Jennings talks about traditional attitudes and how these have been affected by governmental regulation. Companies are now forced to take responsibility for waste disposal and environmental damage. The costs that result are now being internalised. That is, they are included in the cost of manufacture. Previously, companies didn't have to pay anything, but now the producer pays.
Traditionally, the environment was seen as a sort of infinite sink into which you could chuck out all your wastes at zero cost. The cost of that was actually borne by the environment. Increasingly, through regulation, costs are becoming internalised. So the cost, for example, of packaging and recovery of packaging is having to be borne by the companies producing it. So the principle that's being adopted is the producer pays. And this means, in a way, that corporations can't escape recognising the cost of their activities on the environment. This trend in policy will continue into the future.
Many companies have come to recognise their responsibilities or obligations to the environment. How do companies account for the costs that result? David Wheeler explains the difficulties and reports research showing that companies that behave responsibly, are good corporate citizens, gain benefits. If they become stakeholder inclusive by making the interests of the community, customers and employees a priority, they will perform better and add long-term value for their shareholders.
At the body shop, it's very, very difficult because how do you account for every hour that's spent by a manager thinking about their environmental obligations and their part of the operation? It's very, very difficult. What you can do, of course, is measure certain tangible things like how much the corporation gives to charity. You can measure how many hours are volunteered in the local community. You can measure certain things and capture those and publish them, so that's an important thing to do. But if you look at the evidence, what is clear is that companies which do behave as good corporate citizens, that are stakeholder inclusive, i.e. they do look after the interests of their customers, their employees, as well as their shareholders, actually in the long term, they perform better. A number of studies have been done in the US in recent years that show that companies which don't just put short-term shareholder value first, actually add more long-term shareholder value.
Companies may benefit financially from good corporate citizenship. But how does a company let everyone know that it is a good corporate citizen? David Wheeler focuses on two aspects. One, speaking out on relevant issues. And two, listening to stakeholders in the countries where the business operates so that the company can work fully with the community and become an integral part of the local society.
We take the view that we speak out on issues which our customers and our employees and our other stakeholders would expect us to speak out on. So that is typically issues which affect our industry, the cosmetics industry. So that's why we've taken a very strong stance against animal testing of cosmetics. But we don't actually take a public stance on medical testing of animals because it's not really our place to do that. It's all about listening. It's all about positioning the company as an integral entity within the local society. And one listens to the different stakeholders in that country, including the government, who have got their views, including your own employees who've got their views, including your customers, and one positions the company then as integral within society.
Business is becoming increasingly aware of its responsibilities, both social and environmental. Government regulation and public pressure mean that corporate responsibility will stay high on the agenda and continue to influence how companies do business in the future.